Hello, welcome to Gardener's World. I do love primroses. To me, they're the archetypal spring flower, and on a cold, miserable spring like this, you need them more than ever. And in fact, I always associate them with Easter. When I was a child, we would pick great baskets of primroses and take them to the church to decorate it. And on a good year, we'd have enough not just to do the inside of the church, but the graveyard too. And every grave would have a little posy of primroses for Easter Sunday at the foot or the head of the grave. And they are a plant, above all else, that are a symbol of hope.
On tonight's programme, Easter is the first weekend when many gardens open. And Carol is in Cornwall, visiting a spring garden to learn the secrets of its success.
As soon as you see those first shoots bursting through the ground and the leaves beginning to unfurl, you're just filled with excitement.
We'll be going behind the scenes at a specialist grower to get a preview of the bedding plants that we can buy this year.
The thing that really excites me about this plant, Osteospermum voltage yellow, is that it's going to flower all the way from the very early season, from April right the way through to the first frosts.
And Joe continues his series of masterclasses on planting design. And this week, he shares ideas on how to create a naturalistic garden.
Easter is always a really special time for gardeners because it signals, regardless of the weather, the end of winter and the beginning of a new season. And this year, not only have we got Easter, but we've got more time because the clocks go forward on Sunday morning, which gives us that precious extra hour when we want it, when we can get out in the garden. These 4 grass borders are actually the newest part of Longmeadow. Until 18 months ago, 2 years ago, they were all part and parcel of the dual garden and planted up accordingly. And then in the summer of 2011, everything was taken out and replanted with grasses. And I have to say, as far as I'm concerned, they've been triumphant. And not least because they're so easy to manage. Once you've planted them, there's really nothing to do except for once a year, give them a tidy through, clear away all the old material and get them light and air. But it doesn't matter if you're growing one grass in a pot or a couple in a border, the same rules apply. And there's just one thing to be clear of in your mind is the difference between an evergreen grass and a deciduous grass. So if you have a steeper, like this Steeper gigantea here, this is evergreen, and you can see it is because it's got green leaves. And all you have to do is just run your fingers through it and take out all the dead material. It's the simplest and most practical way. Just comb it. That can go down there. Now, where you have a deciduous grass, you need to cut it back. But you can see that already down the base, the new growth is coming up. And I don't want to cut that off. Choose the cutting point, just about there, I'd say, and get in there and hack. Now, these grasses don't really come into their own until midsummer, and then they take off. And by the end of July, they're fantastic, and their real prime season are August, September, October, when you get these plumes of flower and the seed heads, and you've got the structure, and they catch the wind, and there's movement, and it's sound, and just fabulous. Before I have a proper tidy up, I'm going to clear some of this away to the compost heap. Now, these borders are dominated by grasses, and everything else works around them. But in his final of the 4-part masterclass that Joe's been giving us, he looks at the way you can make a naturalistic garden using grasses as part of it.
A successful naturalistic garden takes the best from nature and adds just a touch of design. Swathes of plants are carefully chosen and combined, but left to find their own order, mimicking what happens in the wild. This week, again, I'm looking at the design elements of structure, texture, colour, and seasonal interest to help explain how to create a naturalistic garden. This is a fantastic naturalistic border. Now, it's very stylised. You wouldn't actually see these plants together in nature, but the effect they have together in this suburban garden is very powerful because this border is just linked together beautifully by the grasses. There's no real showstoppers here. There's nothing competing for your attention and no evergreen shrubs punctuating the space either. So that creates a lovely fluid effect and a nice relaxed feel. In a traditional border, you would have the taller plants at the back and the lower plants at the front. But with this style of planting, you can throw that rule book out the window, which is great, to get that lovely naturalistic feel. And these plants lend themselves to being brought to the front of the border. Something like this steeper gigantea is absolutely perfect because you can see through it. So it creates a lovely depth of field to the planting behind. And combined with this Verbena bonariensis, well, it's a classic combination. And it even looks good on a blustery day like this. In these gardens, the plants are grouped in blocks with strong contrast between their shapes and forms, but texture is also used to link the whole garden together. There are bold blocks of different textures like the flat-headed sedum, the soft grasses and spiky echinops. But it's repeating these blocks that helps hold the garden together and draw the eye. You don't have to stick to a colour scheme, but creating compositions using 2 or 3 plants can help create a coherent space. This is a fantastic combination. We've got this lovely fluffy sedum at the front, and we've got an echinacea in the middle with its downward drooping petals and fantastic cones to the centre of the flower. And towards the back, this upright, different form, different shape of this Persicaria, quite an intense pink. And the colour that links them all together is this reddish pink just dotted all the way through. So the eye moves beautifully through these 3. Gardens like this look fabulous over the summer and really come into their own in the autumn and winter when there's still plenty to be seen. In nature, plants decay at different rates, and there's so much beauty to be had in those fading blooms. Look at this composition here. We've got a really good combination of the vertical accent of the verbascum at the front, the pom-poms of the phlomis, that lovely rounded seed head, and then the flatter seed head of these achilleas at the back. Together, they make a wonderful composition, so don't be tempted to grab the secateurs and cut them back. Leave them on all the way through the winter, because they'll only look better when frosted. So here's my plan for a naturalistic garden. First thing I'm going to do is just sort of draw some swathes through the planting area and get a nice flow through it, and then start filling in some blocks of planting. So I'm going to start with something nice and tall, something like verbascum, and then I'm going to plant a drift in front of those, something more medium height. I think these Rudbeckia are absolutely stunning at this time of year. A shot of yellow colour would be great. I think the echinacea here are absolutely beautiful. It'd be a nice contrast in colour and shape of flower head as well. So just a little block of those, a little cluster. And behind them, I've got to get some grasses in because the grasses are going to help link all the borders together. So something like a calamagrostis. And then to one side, I need something with really good seed heads. So some phlomis would be perfect. Sedum here again, a really good low plant, always combine well with the grasses. Now I'm on to the front of border plant here, and I think Stipa tenuissima, this absolutely fantastic. And in front of this phlomis, I've got a nice gap between the phlomis and the grasses at the front. I think Persicaria would be perfect. And then a band of, I think, allium. The little white seed heads are gorgeous, and they'll bring colour earlier in the year as well. And I'm going to take the inspiration from this garden and put in some of these steeper gigantea so I can see through their wispiness and go for that classic combination of some Verbena bonariensis growing through them. and I'll just add in some eupatoriums to frame the composition at the back. That'll fill in over time to make a really striking naturalistic garden.
Of course, another real bonus of wild gardens, that not only do they look really good, but also they're fantastic for wildlife, so the whole thing works well together. Now, I've put those on the compost heap ready to be shredded. Most compost heaps tend to be a little bit high in nitrogen, too much green material like grass cuttings. If you can add lots of carbon, which you get in the dried out stems of grasses, that will get the balance better and the texture better, and the whole thing will work beautifully. I've been preparing vegetables ready to plant out, but it's not something you can do in a rush, because if you're sowing seed at the end of winter, it's far too cold to plant them out, particularly this spring, which has been icy. So I sow them, propagate them in the greenhouse, and then they go into a cold frame and gradually grow and get a little bit more robust, and then they're hardening off. And it's really important when you are sowing seed under cover, before planting it out, to give them a chance to acclimatise, which is all hardening off is. So I've got some rocket here, which is now ready for planting out, as well as some beans. Come on, Nice. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Easter is traditionally the time when people planted their potatoes. But I don't imagine anybody in the British Isles is going to be planting potatoes this weekend. It's just too cold. There's no point in putting anything into cold, wet soil because it won't grow. So what I've done is to protect the soil and warm it up. Protection is against rain, so it dries out a bit, and anything which just keeps the heat in will help. Put it on the soil for a few days or even a week before planting out, and then you can get cracking. And these raised beds have been designed to try and alleviate the problem of this very wet, heavy soil we have down here. So that is quite dry. It'll drain well. It's not warm, but for what I'm putting in, I think it will be fine. And that's why I'm planting out rocket. These are nice plants that were sown, let me look at the date, on the 5th of February. And you can see they've grown up good and strong. And the secret of getting plants away from plugs is to have good individual plants with a nice root system. Just make a hole and just pop it in. Don't force it, because then you'll damage the roots. Just gently ease round it. And the other thing, that when you're sowing any salad crop, don't be tempted to put them too close together. So I just use the span of my hand. And of course, if you haven't sown your rocket or any seeds yet, don't worry. There's plenty of time. But I would sow them now. But because it's such a cold spring, I wouldn't sow direct. I would sow them under cover, raise the plants, and then plant them out when things warm up. Go with the conditions as they are. And that's good gardening. Feel the soil. You know, is it warm? Is it cold? If it's cold, then that's the reality, not what the calendar says or the book says or even people like me say. You know, use your own judgment, because it's likely to be much, much more helpful than going by the book. OK, let's go in there. I think all of us have felt that this winter and spring has been a pretty long, hard slog, and at times it's been miserable. And that's the moment when you need to get out, visit someone else's garden and get some inspiration. And Carol has been down to Cornwall doing just that.
Bosvigo in Truro, Cornwall, is one of my favourite gardens ever. One of Cornwall's claims to fame is that spring arrives here first, thanks to the benign influence of the Gulf Stream. As soon as you see those first shoots bursting through the ground and the leaves beginning to unfurl, you're just filled with excitement. Look at this Stachyrus praecox. Praecox means early, with these delightful dripping lanterns of flowers. It's just beginning to do its thing here. But if you're a Mancunian, it won't happen for you for a few weeks. And if you're an Aberdonian, you may well have to wait until the end of April. But however long you've got to wait, it's so worth waiting for. It's just such a wonderful season. And here at Bosvigo, it's the spring light shining through the bare branches that illuminates the woodland floor and brings everything to life. The plants that personify this time of year for me are what I call Cinderella plants. They're all those woodland wonders that shoot to stardom, get everything done before the clock strikes 12. They flower, set seed, and then retire for the season until they reappear in the following spring. This wood anemone is a perfect example. This is Anemone nemorosa. It's a rather large form of our native wood anemone, and it loves this sort of setting where it rambles around. It spreads by these little tuberous roots, these little rhizomes, just under the surface of the soil, and then up it comes. So there's a whole thicket of it. It just goes to prove that far from shade being a problematic sort of place, in fact, it offers you all sorts of wonderful opportunities. Wendy Perry seizes every opportunity her garden gives her. She's a mistress of the art of combining Cinderellas with spring classics to roll out the colour right across the season. Your garden is just thick with ideas about combining plants together. I mean, this, as an individual, this Coreopsis is just...
Isn't it pretty?
Delightful.
And also I've picked up, contrasted the colour with Pulmonaria blue ensign underneath, which is a very sharp blue, which as that fades is going to then be followed by Scilla sibirica.
Right, so all the time you're thinking about...
It's layers and layers, each one coming on as the other fades.
And that classic combination of yellow and blue.
Oh, you can't beat it. In the spring, to me, lemon yellow and blue are the most wonderful combinations. I never get tired of them.
Lemon yellow, blue and green.
Great, go for it.
And the whole garden is verdant, isn't it?
Absolutely. Each day something happens.
This lovely partnership of Chinodoxa and Fritillary typifies the way Wendy weaves her magic.
They are exquisite. I mean, if you look up closely at them, I mean, all the checkered patterns of the purple and cream, I mean, it's endlessly fascinating.
The very first time I saw one of those, I think it was in Kew Gardens, and I thought it was a joke. I thought somebody had hand-painted it.
They probably had.
Yeah, but it looks like that, doesn't it?
It is exquisite.
And then you look, this little Scilla, is it?
Yes, a Scilla.
Almost had its time. This is taking over. That's looking beautiful. And then behind it are going to be things like this. Is this
pink cow parsley, which is so exquisite. It comes up 3 feet, lacy pink blooms, and then I've got black Queen of the Night tulips which rise up through it. So it's something worth coming to see in late April.
It's something worth drooling over.
It is. I love it.
Look at the perfection of that. The thing about your garden is it's a down-on-your-knees garden, isn't it? I bet people never look up here.
I spend my whole life on my hands and knees, up close and personal with them, and I recommend it. That's the way I garden.
Yeah.
And I hope that people coming will look closely at the beautiful plants, you know, at the epimediums, then going on to the hellebore, which has got golden yellow nectar.
Oh, look at that.
Isn't it exquisite? It's very, very popular.
Yeah, and just this combination, everything flows together, doesn't it?
They link
it's
up.
so lovely.
They link up.
It's a labour of love. It is intense, isn't it? How long do you spend out here?
More hours than I would care to confess, actually. Probably I work 6 months of the year to have that spring rush. I often say I peak on a Thursday afternoon in mid-April. There is that moment when everything is perfect, when everything, all the connections, all the plants that you planted join together.
just clearing this. I'm just taking off the cover because I want to put broad beans into here. And to be honest, I've never grown broad beans in a raised bed before. Normally you grow them in rows with a gap between the rows where you can walk down and pick the beans. So as an experiment, I'm going to grow them in a block and reach in and maybe have to support them from the middle. But the technique for sowing them is identical. Now you've got big seeds. Take them and just pop them in like that. Push it underground. Now each bean should be at least 9 inches apart and could be a little bit more. These are big plants, big root system, and they need room to grow. Now, the nice thing about a raised bed is you can sit on it. You can eat broad beans when they're really quite small and tender and tasty. And they're completely delicious, either on their own or in a risotto. Broad beans are probably the easiest vegetable of the lot to grow. They're easy to handle. They grow in almost all conditions. They're tough. They'll take any amount of weather. There's very little else that's going to cause them any harm. So once they're in the ground, nothing to do at all but stake them as they grow bigger. So a really, really good vegetable, not just to eat, but also for the soil, because the roots open the ground up, and obviously they're legumes, so they add nitrogen. Now, if you're not sowing broad beans, here are some other things that you can be doing this weekend.
Just as it's breaking into leaf, now is the perfect moment to prune back dogwood. By cutting it back hard, you'll stimulate new, vigorous growth, and this will give you the best colour next winter. You can cut the whole plant right back, or if it's a big plant and you want to keep some of it, cut half this year and half next year. And while you're about it, it takes very easily as cuttings. So put some of the cut material into the ground and you'll get new plants for free. Summer might seem a long way away, but now's the moment to sow tomatoes. I like to use a seed tray, sprinkling the seed thinly on the compost, and then cover them lightly. Now you can water them direct, or you can place the seed tray in a container of water and let it soak up from the bottom, and this avoids disturbing the seeds. Leave it for about 5 minutes, and then place it in a warm place to germinate. A windowsill above a radiator will do fine, or in a greenhouse on a heated bench. Over the next few weeks, garden centres will be selling millions of bedding plants. But many of these are tender, and it's much too early to be planting these outside. However, the plugs are very good value for money, and if you buy them now and then pot them on into a 3-inch pot using normal potting compost, by the time that spring does come and it warms up, you'll have a much larger plant for your money.
There's a tendency to think of bedding plants as a very municipal thing. But actually, you can use them in lots of different ways, from hanging baskets to a mixed border. We use them here all the time, particularly in the Kew Garden, because they do give a real intensity of colour in a very short time span, and that's very, very useful. And last summer, we went along to the trial ground of a nursery that grows bedding for the trade to see what will be available in the garden centres this spring.
I think we all need a little stimulation in our lives. With bedding plants, you have just about every colour imaginable. They bring lots of excitement, impact, a bit of wow, and a feeling of well-being. We have 4 acres of trial grounds and plants in all sorts of different displays, baskets, containers, out in trial beds, display gardens. And this is our living catalogue. New varieties, existing varieties, plus new plants which perhaps are 2 years away from introduction into the UK market. What's new for 2013 are these wonderful colours of Calabricoa. This series called Cabaret has been developed to create a lovely basket-hugging shape, but the beautiful colours of this deep yellow and this bright red. The colours don't bleach in full sun, and they'll go in almost any aspect in the garden, full sun, semi-shade. What I really like about the plant is that you don't need to pick them over like petunias. Even more exciting is this lovely deep purple. And this is can deep purple with its almost black-like flowers. What we have here is a new begonia called Cherry Bonbon. Beautiful patio begonia, semi-double flowers, really loaded with colour all summer long. It comes from the same plant breeder as the Million Kisses trailing begonia, which has been bred to withstand wet through to hot, dry conditions. And I think we've got a real winner here. Well, given the past 2 seasons, the really wet summers, cool conditions, just look how resilient these bedding plants are. The marigolds will go through the worst of weathers, and used in particular with the rudbeckias with different forms and heights, incredible show of colour. The thing that really excites me about this plant, Osteospermum voltage yellow, is it's going to flower all the way from the very early season, from April right the way through to the first frosts. It's one of the earliest and latest flowering Osteospermums, intense colour, even under very wet conditions, and we've had absolute downpour today, but look at it.
It is possible to get a bit overwhelmed by the amount of choice of bedding. But what I try and do is to work out what colours I want and the effects I want before choosing the actual plants. And then, when I know pretty much what I'm after, choose the plants to do the job. It doesn't matter what you choose. You do need to protect them all until the weather warms up. And it's not just from frost, but wind is important too. So if you don't have a cold frame or a greenhouse, put them somewhere where they're out of the wind. Right, keep those nice and tucked up. Give them a little bit of a water. And they can grow on nice and snug. Now, it's a good job we've got a long weekend, because I've got a long job ahead of me. These limes are pleached, which effectively means that they're trained to have a very, very simple shape. And every spring, I prune them back hard. It's a long old job, but I rather like it because it's easy and it's got a rhythm. And you just feel that it's one of those jobs that mark the entrance of spring. So have a really good Easter. Don't forget, the clocks go forward on Sunday morning, and I'll see you back here at Longmeadow next week. Bye-bye. This way. Come on. Hello. Welcome to Gardener's World. Now, it's been one of the coldest springs that any of us can remember. And the garden has kind of gone into a second hibernation. It's just poised, waiting, like all of us, for spring to happen. But one of the good things about this is it's bought us time. We've got about extra 3 weeks we wouldn't have otherwise had to get on with some of those jobs that probably we should have done by now.
This week, Rachel indulges her passion for hepaticas, a plant that is in its prime right now.
The only trouble with being somewhere like this is it makes you feel incredibly greedy.
We visit a national collection of bamboos and see that in their huge variety, there is a bamboo for every situation and every garden. Kew's historic temperate house is about to undergo a major reconstruction, and Carol has been along to find out how they're going about protecting their precious plant collection.
Over here's a melaleuca. It's from Australia. I've certainly never seen it before.
The last time I can remember a spring as cold as this was when I was 7 in 1962. And then, in exactly the same way, winter just clung on and wouldn't shift. And of course, compared to last year, when it was boiling hot at this time, it's a pretty big shock. So, for example, by now, the damson blossom should be covering loads of hedgerows and trees in the garden. Not a sign of it. The cowslips, which were planted all the way along this path here, normally really getting going by now. None. And there was just a sense, and of course it was exceptionally hot last year, that spring was really limbering up, whereas now, nothing. Nothing at all. But of course, when it does happen, it's going to explode. This is the writing garden, and it's a new venture, but I had hoped to have quite a lot of it planted up by now. But of course, absolutely nothing. Haven't been able to touch it since I finished the path, because it's either been completely sodden or frozen. But I think that it's just dry enough that I can plant a couple of shrubs into here. And I've got a couple of hydrangeas here. And hydrangeas are not a fashionable plant. They have a slightly dowdy image, but that's unfair, because hydrangeas can be fantastic plants. And I love, in particular, the lace caps, which have a wonderful grace and elegance. And I've got a couple here. The first is veitchii, hydrangea veitchii, which grows about 5-6 foot tall. And the panicles of flower will just float through the leaves. So if I place this over here, sort of about like that, so it'll add body to this corner of the garden. And I'm putting them in part shade because hydrangeas like some sunshine, but also a little bit of shade and protection from the wind. Now, these are very hardy. I've got the other one here, which is hydrangea paniculata, which is really tough and really strong and absolutely stunning. And it's much more vigorous, so it'll fill a bigger space. If I put this back here, now, this will fill this area, and you can see that with a backdrop of these bright green leaves and then the lovely flowers, which have that combination of intensity and drama, but lightness of touch. That's what I'm after. So, very exciting. We'll get that in the ground. Now, a guide to the sort of conditions that hydrangeas like is in the name, the word hydrangea. It's actually based on the Greek for water, hydra. So they like moisture. If you've got very light soil, bulk it up with some moisture-retentive organic material. So with a mulch, that's all I have to do. And it doesn't look like a lot now. You just wait. Now, I'm giving this a mulch of leaf mould, and this will do two things. This will both create a nice fibrous loam as it breaks down into the soil, and the surface roots will go into that, and also keep the moisture in. And the thing to remember about these plants is that despite their lightness and airiness, they do like rich feeding, lots of water, lots of feed, and then they will flower as well as possible. But of course, nothing until July at the earliest, and really they're at their best, August, September time. But Rachel is reveling in a flower that is looking spectacular right now because it just loves this cold weather.
I
believe that the plants you're introduced to when you're a child are often the ones that you remain drawn to for life. And when I was little, I used to go to the nursery with my father at the weekend and we would buy Alpines for the rockery. Everyone had a rockery in the 60s and 70s. And sometimes, if we were very lucky, we might find one of these, a hepatica. Hepaticas are dainty little plants closely related to buttercups. They thrive in woodland and are found on mountain slopes in Asia, North America and Europe, pushing their way up through the melting snows of spring. If you get up close to them like this, you see all the myriad of differences. I mean, just look at this one. Beautiful pale pink and then that circlet of stamens in a very rich dark pink. Absolutely wonderful. The only trouble with being somewhere like this is it makes you feel incredibly greedy. At his nursery in South Staffordshire, John Massey is so passionate about hepaticas, he's built this Alpine house especially for his ever-growing collection. It's like being a kid in a sweet shop, isn't it? It's just wherever you look. It's fantastic. I do sense a bit of an obsession here.
Yeah.
How many plants have you got in here?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, no. I'm terrible at that.
A lot?
Yeah, there's a lot.
But I know that these are pretty much global, aren't they?
Well, yeah, they're right through the northern temperate zones of Europe, Asia, and North America and Canada. They're all small perennial woodland plants growing on sunny slopes, which is strange because most people think of them as needing shade, but they like to flower in the sun. And as soon as they finish flowering, they're under deciduous trees.
So they're opportunists. They take that
Yes.
early spring sun,
Yeah.
and then when the leaf canopy fills in, then they've got the shade in the summer.
Yeah, and they'll take it much drier then as well.
John's travelled the world in search of rare varieties of hepatica. It's his ambition to use his collection to breed more remarkable variations of this gorgeous plant.
These are from America. They're really hairy.
They're really hairy.
Aren't they? All the leaves you see on hepaticas are covered with fine hairs as well. But this is a cutilobra. And you've got two species in America. There's this...
Oh, we're off. Hang on.
This is the other one, which is Americana, which is much, much smaller.
This is just stunning. I love it when a plant draws you in. I mean, you've really got to look at this close up to appreciate it.
Well, this is the beauty of them, and to my mind, part of the charm of a hepatica is the simple beauty.
The more tender Asian varieties, including the japonicas, can be more of a challenge to grow and are best grown in pots under glass, where the temperature doesn't fall below -5 degrees Celsius.
The Japanese are far more complex. You've got far more variation, stamen-coloured petal fall, and hundreds and hundreds of different doubles. It's a bit of a love-hate relationship with the Japanese, because I can't resist them, but I know they're no good outside. And I always tell myself, no, we don't need any more, we don't need any more. But as soon as you see a different one, must have it. If you want to have a go at growing hepaticas at home and you haven't got a magnificent alpine house like this one, well, you could grow them in a pot in the garden and choose one of the European forms, nobilis, and then put it somewhere where the pot can get lots of bright sunshine in the spring when it's flowering, and then as the weather warms up towards the summer, move it out and put it in the shade, just a quiet part of the garden where it won't be noticed. And hopefully you'll have these for many years to come. A talking point, something to show off. Perhaps a little bit challenging, but 100% worth it.
I've got some plants here which I too want to pot up and then move around. And this idea of having plants in pots that have their moment in the sun, so to speak, and then can be pushed sideways and let something else come in, it adds a real level of flexibility to the garden. Now, these are gladioli. And when I was a child, gladioli were grown, certainly my mother did, as cut flowers of astonishing sort of lipstick colours, bright pinks and mauves and yellows. But what I've got here are 3 varieties which should be brilliantly intense. There's White Prosperity, which I'll put in the writing garden, and I've got Black Star, which is really dark, dark colour, and Plum Tart, which, as the name suggests, is a sort of pinky, plum-coloured, almost cerise. So these colours are vibrant and strong, but they're not going to do anything for a bit. But now is the time to plant summer flowering bulbs like gladioli or lilies, so that you can bring them in at the moment. But there's a problem here, because they do much better in terracotta pots, because they drain better. And most of us don't have that many, and you don't have them lying around unused for months on end. This one, for example, has got tulips in. Bit backward because it's been so cold, but this will be occupied for another couple of months. So what I'm going to do is plant the gladioli into these pots here. Now, these lattice pots are used for subaquatic plants. They can drain well, the roots can come out if they want, but you could do it just into a normal plastic pot. And then after the tulips are finished, they'll come out and can dry off. And then I will plunge these into that pot. And when the gladioli are finished, next for September or October, they can come out and the tulips can be planted. Whatever you plant them in, it's important to have the right compost. These come from South Africa, and they are bone dry in winter, and they get a little bit of summer rain, and what they really need is good drainage. Similar, in fact, to the hepaticas. So add a bit of grit to the compost. And you can't really overdo this, so don't be coy about it. And then put a layer in the bottom. Now, when you're planting a bulb or a corm, as a rule of thumb, you're better to go too deep than too shallow. But you can't go wrong if you do it twice the depth of the bulb. Now, these will need a bit of protection for the next month or so. By watering them, it'll trigger them into growth. And of course, there are a whole range of plants that need much more protection than that. Go to a botanical garden, and that's where you see the incredible collections. And probably the most incredible of the lot is at Kew in London. Fantastic garden. But the temperate house there, with all the plants inside it, is going through a huge upheaval. And Carol has been along to see how they're coping.
Gathered together here are plants from all over the world. All manner of rarities and special plants. Over here's a melaleuca. It's from Australia. I've certainly never seen it before. And just across the path is a plant you'd have to go to the foothills of Kashmir to find. It's Cupressus kashmirianus with his most graceful, drooping branches. What a vital resource this is. It's 150 years since the temperate house at Kew first opened its doors, and now it faces major reconstruction. The cracks are starting to show, not only jeopardising the fabric of the place itself, but perhaps even more critically, the collection of 1,500 different species that it houses. It falls to temperate house manager David Cook to look after the collection while the work is going on.
All this is coming out, all the plants are coming out, the soil's coming out. I mean, all the venting, all the glass, a lot of the steel work, it's all going to be renewed.
And the importance of these plants is what?
Oh, beyond measure, because it's a unique collection of plants.
Huge resource.
A huge resource.
In total, there are 4,000 plants to be moved from the temperate house during its restoration. But there are 1 or 2 monumental specimens that are going to have to stay exactly where they are.
This is Livistona chinensis. What a fantastic palm. I'm afraid we're going to leave this one in place, put a cover over it just to protect it. George V planted this. It's hugely important. You know, it's my job and the team's job to look after it for the future.
While the George V palm isn't going anywhere, plenty of bigger specimens are on the move. Gardeners are becoming really familiar with these tree ferns now, but
They are.
can't you just grow them from sections of the trunk?
You can. I mean, traditionally, you just cut them off and just sink them into the ground.
Yeah.
But here, if I can lead you in carefully,
Right.
it's a bit of an adventure.
To the woods.
Okay, into the woods. Yeah. What we're trying to do here, these are air pots, and we've
Yeah.
just put a piece of hessian around there, filled with our compost. And this is all roots on the outside. They'll root into the compost, and then we'll get a saw and cut off right at the base.
Right.
And then we've still got some height. This is quite an easy
Yeah.
way of propagation.
But it's beautiful though, because it keeps the whole architecture of the trunk, doesn't it?
yeah.
You don't
I mean,
lose
the most
it.
important thing is this top bit here needs to be kept moist all the time.
What a clever way to actually move it. It's brilliant. Plants like this rhododendron are being moved, but to ensure their survival, they're also being propagated. Scott Taylor's going to explain more.
It is a beautiful species, this one.
You can't really take cuttings either, can you, from rhodies?
They're difficult to take from cuttings, so typically we air layer them.
Yeah.
And that gives us roots, and we can get a second plant from them.
So is that the sort of thing you're looking for? Something with a bit of bare stem and plenty of green on the top?
See, that's a perfect little example there.
Go on then, show us how it's done.
This is how you would do it.
You damage that outside layer and you expose the cambium layer.
You've got to expose the cambium because that's where your roots are going to come from.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's what we want.
That is what we want.
So do you treat it with anything?
We use a little bit of hormone rooting powder.
Yeah.
I know some people are a bit against it, but it does tend to speed it up just a little bit.
Yeah.
Use a little bit of moss here. It has to be nice and moist because obviously the moisture is going to bring your roots out.
Right.
So we take that and then wrap it around this stem, covering that cut.
And just make a sort of little nest of it.
That's right. If you
Can I tie this on?
You certainly can.
So it's just to make sure that the moisture inside that plastic
Exactly, so
is
that the moss
retained.
doesn't dry out because they need that moisture to keep the roots growing.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing this in the renovated
Oh, yes.
temperate house at Kew. It could take as long as 6 years to complete this massive restoration, but it's worth it to secure the future of this magnificent collection.
Now, this is a first. These are snake's head fritillaries that I planted at the end of last summer. And about 3-4 weeks ago, I dug them up, popped them into a pot, and put them in the greenhouse to force them. And it's worked a treat. None of the fritillaries are even beginning to flower outside. And in a spring where practically nothing is flowering and everything is holding back, these are an injection of the light and the life that we all want from springtime. Now I've got to find the best place to put them. That'll be nice and sheltered from the wind, and also I'll see it every time I go by. Now, you may not be forcing bulbs, but here are some other jobs you can be getting on with this weekend. At this time of year, when the weather's been cold, many of us have greenhouses and windowsills filled with plants and seedlings. And there is a risk of fungal problems, particularly if it's not ventilated very well. And one way to help avoid this is to make sure your pots and seed trays are really clean before you use them. All that's necessary is a good scrub under running water, then leave them to dry off, and that will help avoid a lot of problems. It's important to keep all tools that cut as sharp as possible. With secateurs, a good way to do this is to draw a line along the cutting edge and then gently remove that with a whetstone. That will create a burr, so turn it over and then gently rub along to remove the burr and leave a razor-sharp edge. If your soil has been as wet and cold as mine, you won't have been able to get your onion or shallot sets out.
But it's not too late. Get a plug tray and fill it with ordinary compost. And then insert each set so it's half buried per plug. Put them somewhere protected and these will grow quite quickly. Then when the ground is dry and warm enough, you can plant them out individually. Now I've got a bamboo for the damp garden, and it is enormous, this one. And this particular variety, which is Philostachys nigra henonis, is one of the tallest you can grow in this country. Given a fair wind and the right circumstances, it will reach about 8 meters tall. But there are so many bamboos that you can buy, there's bound to be one that will work in your garden. And we went down to Cornwall to visit Mike Bellamy's garden, where he has as many bamboos as he can possibly fit.
I'm not a great one for flowers. Flowers to me are an addition to a plant and very beautiful in themselves, but they're fleeting. To me, a plant has to have inner qualities, and a bamboo has got that. Everybody thinks a bamboo nut is mad because they go around inspecting tiny little hairs and colours and nodes, and the minute beauty of a bamboo is quite amazing. This is one of my favourites, ideal for most gardens in that it doesn't grow too big. It's got beautiful shape and tiny leaves, very elegant. It's a fairly new introduction called Barinda nudjuangensis. A small size for a bamboo, so it's suited to a small garden. And it's elegant, so it's suitable for specimen plants on a lawn or in a front garden. You know, it's an ideal substitute for a small tree. Philostachys come from lowland China, and they are used to, in the wild, high soil temperatures from the warmer summer and longer summer. A useful thing for if you want big Philostachys, but not other bamboos, just Philostachys, is to stack your grass cuttings on them. This does 3 things. It provides nitrogen as the grass breaks down. It ferments, so it creates warmth, which would normally be excessive for most plants and burn them. But for the rhizomes of the Philostachys, it's ideal. And it also acts as a mulch, so it retains moisture, which is another quite basic requirement for bamboo. This is Sassa curilensis. There are hundreds of Sassa species, and quite a few in cultivation. They're all extremely invasive. I grow 2 or 3 of the less invasive sort, but even that's relative. This is a bit I prepared earlier. You can see how it just goes on and on and on and on. This will penetrate through pots or anything. A friend of mine had got a beautiful Sassa in a pot in the front garden. He was very keen to show me how he'd mastered the Sassa, and I'd walked up through the road, and I'd already seen that this plant had gone through the pot, through his paving in the front garden. It had gone under the foundations of a brick wall and under the slabs of a pavement, and it was coming up in the tarmac of the road. And it was only kept in check by the traffic going past. The only plant I've regretted putting down here is clung tumidinoda, which is the most beautiful plant. We didn't really know its downside until it was well established. It just spreads everywhere, and it's a very difficult plant to control. And I just fear for the future of it.
Well, there we go. I've drilled some drainage holes in this galvanised tank, which I'm going to plant my Philostachys in.
And the reason I've chosen a really strong container is because any bamboo can burst through almost anything, as we've seen, and certainly a plastic pot is out of the question. Right. The next thing to do is to put some crocks in the bottom for drainage. Now, I've made up a compost that has been reinforced with a bit of grit and sieved garden compost added to it to give it a little bit of extra nourishment. If you're buying it, get a normal peat-free potting compost and then buy the same quantity of soil improver and mix it all up together, because bamboos really will respond well to extra goodness and also water retention. Right, let's untie this while I can get it down. Now, when you're choosing a location for a bamboo, bear in mind that it does need shelter from the wind. Of course, you want the wind to shift and shuffle through it and get that lovely sliding sound as the leaves cross each other. But you don't want to scorch it. You can see this has actually got a little bit scorched by cold winds. But it needs some sun too. The more sun you have, the better the colour. So if you've got Philostachys nigra plain and you want those really lovely black stems, then it needs to be in the sunshine. In shade, they'll always be slightly grey. Now, if we take this out of the pot, you can see that it's a fairly dense root system there. It's quite a good idea, if you can, is to get your thumb in and just tease it out a bit. Now, that's not to spread the roots that are there, but to stimulate fresh root growth. Just tease it into action. Now, with any luck, we can get that in there. One of the reasons that I've chosen this, other than from the green that I want from the culms, is that it's exceptionally hardy. This is hardy down to about -25. It should be able to withstand our very cold, wet winters. And I can't stress that if you are growing bamboos in a container, you're going to have to water it at least once a week. A really good soak, because they will always react instantly to drying out. They don't like it at all. Let's get back a bit and have a look from a distance. I like the way it's got a lean to it. It's got an elegance. Not quite sure it's in the right place, but I'll live with it for a few days. Now, I'll be back next week, but not here at Longmeadow, because we've got an RHS special, and I'll be down at Wisley. So I'll see you there. Bye-bye. Come on. Hello, welcome to Gardener's World. Now, I've left Longmeadow today and come to RHS Garden Wisley, where they're preparing for an anticipated 900,000 visitors this year. Mind you, it's been as tough for them as it has been for all of us with this harsh spring weather. Nevertheless, there's lots going on here, both inside and out.
And also this week, Carol is lending a hand to an RHS Britain in Bloom volunteer who's hoping to brighten up a former mining town with a community garden.
Wow, look at this. Oh, it's plant wonderland, isn't it?
And Joe is in Wales, visiting a garden filled with rare and exotic species.
Stunning piece of architecture, and it's the home to some of the most endangered plants on our planet.
Now, I shall be looking at the orchid collection here and learning the best way to repot them. I'll also be helping to sow some wildflower seed and getting inspiration for my own garden from the Alpine house. I've come to this Alpine house for two reasons, really. The first is it's got the best colour in the whole of Wisley. And even the Great Wisley is slightly short of colour after the spring we've had, but this is just rich with it. And also, more selfishly, because I don't know much about alpines, and I want to grow more. I want to really introduce them into Longmeadow. So to get inspiration and knowledge, this is the place to come.
And Colin Crosby, the curator of Wisley, is here to give me expert advice on how to grow them.
Colin, I think it's fair to say that this has got more colour in this one house than the rest of Wisley put together at the moment.
At the present moment, it's just like a sweet shop. It's overflowing with colour.
What defines an alpine? It's one of those things that we all sort of think we know.
A true alpine is something that grows high up in the mountains at high altitudes. A lot of people think alpines are difficult. Yeah. They're not. They're so easy to grow and wonderful in a container.
And why are they grown in pots in here? Why don't you just plant them straight into the bed?
Well, we grow them in clay pots, which are plunged into the sand, because that, again, helps to keep the root system cool. And in the summer months, we soak the sand with moisture so that the clay pot can take the moisture from the sand into the pot, whereas during the winter months, when you want the roots to be dry, the sand pulls the moisture through the clay pot out.
Now, would you say that some of these plants are easier to grow than others, or good for a beginner?
There are some that are very easy to grow. For example, over here, we've got some beautiful saxifragas with lovely colours. You can see this massive, tiny little pink flowers. And then things such as cyclamen coum, very, very easy to grow.
And these will grow outside?
These will grow outside perfectly well, and especially when they're in a trough and you've got good drainage underneath them, and you can maybe use some pieces of tiles or stones in there to add a little bit of kind of architecture to your trough as well.
Now, I'll tell you the ones that I really like are the species tulips. See, this one, what is that, humanist? That's so pretty, isn't it?
Such wonderful colours, and outside these are actually great at the bottom of a sheltered south-facing wall where they get baked with the sun, and they're so vibrant when you see the colours inside them.
And unlike a lot of tulips, they will go on and on, won't they?
These will keep flowering for year after year, so you don't have to keep replanting them. But plant them fairly deep, but sunny, south-facing wall, a little bit of shelter, because you don't want that cold wind blasting them around, and then you get this wonderful colour from them. A lot of these can grow outside and stay outside, and it's putting them in the right conditions. And buy 6, 7, 8 of those, and you've got a nice trough or a big clay pot, and you've got your own little miniature alpine garden.
I'm making a list, which is not really a shopping list, it's more of an inspirational list for plants that I would like to grow at Longmeadow. And there's no substitute when you're planning any kind of garden, be it a few pots on a windowsill or a great big herbaceous border, to going out and seeing them growing and building plant combinations of colour and texture and size that you can then take back to your own garden at home. And Joe has gone to visit a partner garden of the RHS. And partner gardens allow entry free to RHS members at certain times of the year. And the one he's gone to is the National Botanic Garden of Wales, which has an unusual glasshouse, not only on the outside, but also on the inside.
Just look around you. Where is the cherry blossom? Where are the magnolia blooms? For many of us, spring is unseasonably late. But I've come to somewhere where it's well underway.
Here at the National Botanic Garden of Wales, I've been promised wonders under this spectacular dome.
And it certainly delivers. It's a stunning piece of architecture, a veritable Noah's Ark made of glass, packed full of plants. And it's the home to some of the most endangered plants on our planet.
We all know about the threat to the rainforest, but the plants here come from some of the driest, most arid places in the world. These Mediterranean plants are so rare, you'll struggle to see them anywhere else on Earth. They're known as Mediterranean plants because of the climate they live in, but they actually come from as far afield as California, Australia, and even South Africa.
Just look at this. This is absolutely stunning. This is the king protea, the national flower of South Africa. It's absolutely beautiful, isn't it? And I've been lucky enough to see it in its natural environment in Cape Town on Table Mountain. And they grow in the fynbos, which literally translated means the fine bush. And it's a combination of flora that all thrive off each other and live in this wonderful ecosystem. But it's under threat through environmental change and also man-made influences too. And out of the 370 protea species, 120 of them are endangered. So it's just lovely to see it thriving away here.
Creating a specific habitat that allows these plants to thrive is no mean feat. This spectacular dome is the largest single-span glasshouse in the world and was designed by Sir Norman Foster. Covering 3,500 square metres, its rocky terraces and sandstone cliffs are contoured to reflect the natural environment. Simon Goodenough is a horticultural curator here and is passionate about protecting endangered species.
You've got some pretty rare plants here, haven't you? McCutcheon's grevillea, I hear, is here somewhere.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not a looker, so you probably walk straight past it. And it's here. It really is not going to win the beauty contest, is it? Mind you, from a botanical point of view and as a curator of a botanic garden, it gets my juices going. You know, I think this is absolutely really sexy. But we're not going to sell it to a lot of people.
So how rare is it?
Well, in Western Australia, there's 10 of them in the wild. That's it. The only reason this was found is because somebody was deciding to drive a road through a part of Western Australia. And quite by luck, you know, a botanist took a look at it and said, hey, guys, I don't think we've ever seen this before. Realised that it was a brand new species to science. Right. We've managed to grow it, we can actually propagate it, and we've got probably more than there are in the wild here. We are keepers of genetic material, if you like. If ever there was a call to get material back, they know it's here.
I've been transported on holiday for a minute there. Honestly, I am in the Canary Islands. I love these echiums, they are gorgeous. Yeah. And I can't quite imagine that they're critically endangered. Things like the echiums are almost like weeds over there, aren't they?
Well, some of them are, but a lot of them grow in very specific niches, and those niches happen to be where we want to build hotels and plazas, and so where they would naturally have grown, they're being squeezed out. So it just needs somebody to decide they want to build a multiplex hotel on the site of an endangered plant. End of story.
Yeah, right. So it's all about keeping the habitat or growing them here. But we're also growing them in our gardens in the UK as well, when the winters aren't too cold.
There are 3 or 4 species that we grow in the British Isles that are actually relatively easy to grow. And Echium pinnanana, the great tall architectural plant that's graced many a London garden where you've got the heat of the city, very easy to grow. More people should have a go at it.
Well, I've always wanted to grow one, actually. Maybe this is the year.
Well, yeah, give it a go, because it's helping to preserve the biodiversity of planet Earth.
Well, I'll do my little bit then.
The National Botanic Garden of Wales is fascinating. It's huge, there's lots to see, and I really recommend paying it a visit. Of course, Wisley is pretty huge too, but it is broken down into lots of smaller gardens. And they're busy at work here, despite the weather. In fact, they were saying to me that they reckon they're 20 days behind last year. However, preparation is underway, and they're sowing wildflower meadows, not just in the great open spaces they have here, but also in corners of the model gardens.
Now, as part of next week's National Gardening Week, we're all being encouraged to grow wild flowers. It's a really good way to add colour and texture to any corner of your garden, and also has the huge benefit of attracting lots of bees and other pollinating insects.
Matthew, hello.
Hello,
How are you?
how are you doing?
Now, I gather you're making a meadow, albeit in really quite a small space.
A very small space, just to show what you can do on a small scale in a domestic garden.
So having dug it over, what's the next step?
We now need to tread, consolidate the soil. You ready to get stuck in?
Yeah, I've got my treading shoes on.
Perfect.
Now, you're preparing this like a lawn, you know, to get rid of your bits and hollows. Why, in fact?
It's just we need a settled seed bed to
Right.
be sowing these into. We don't want the soil settling once we've already put the seed down.
I know that the received opinion is that you need poor soil for any kind of wildflower mix.
There's a couple of schools of thought here. I mean, the more fertile the soil is, the more vigorous any grass will be that's within that meadow mix. If you've got very poor soils, then the grass is going to be far less vigorous, and it'll be a happier combination between wildflowers and grasses. And it's a perennial mix we're putting in here with foxgloves, with primulas, with some galliums, so that's known as bed straw.
Is there any grass in the mix at all?
We're not going for grass in here. We're quite fertile soil in here, and I dare say the grasses wouldn't look so in keeping in a border, so we're going completely wildflower.
So presumably you want to rake that before
We do,
sow, right?
yes. We need to get this down to a fine tilth now, but just to take out any large stones or any twigs in here.
Now, how critical is the timing of this? I mean, it's still cold, but presumably the soil is warming up.
What is really important this time of year is we've still got moisture in the soil. That moisture's there for the germination, will help the flowers establish. You could do this in the autumn if you've got quite a free-draining soil. If you've got a soil that's prone to waterlogging or quite cold, like a clay soil, now, spring, is the time to do it.
So get on with this.
Yeah.
Right, that tilth is now a thing of beauty. It's firm. Ready?
Yes, we're good to go.
Good.
As it's a small area, we're actually going to mix the seed with some sand.
Right.
If you use it like a silver sand or a wash sand, you can see your sowing, and just to help distribute the seed. And I'm literally going to simply sprinkle this in through the sand.
People tend to sow too thickly, don't they?
Indeed, and we're kind of working on like around 1 gram per square metre here.
Right, that's ready.
This is
All
good to go.
OK, it doesn't take two to sow little patches of seed like I'm going to watch.
It doesn't, and it's actually a good point because even quite a large area, just broadcasting by hand is actually one of the most effective ways, and it's simply just through a light sprinkling action.
And of course, this is where the sand comes in.
This is where the sand is so useful. You can see where you've gone a bit too thick or perhaps a little too thin, and you can easily go back over.
Right. Do you leave that or rake it?
Very, very light rake.
Okay.
Just the finest rake. And it's literally just a...
Just a tickle.
Tickle, that's the word. It's just a tickle. Also, it takes up my footprints, which look absolutely hideous. Just enough to settle the seed there.
And one last thing.
Water. And really just in the first few months while this is germinating, just to ensure the ground doesn't completely dry out.
And with a little bit of warmth, these will be germinating in weeks, won't they?
They will.
Yeah.
We hope for that warmth.
I'd give anything for that warmth. Now, you may not be making a meadow, but here are some other jobs that you can be getting on with at home this weekend.
Mophead hydrangeas benefit from having their dead flower heads left on over winter. This helps to protect them against frost damage. But with the arrival of spring, it's time to remove them, cutting back to the first strong, healthy pair of green buds lower down the stem. Any thin, spindly stems should be pruned out too, along with dead branches, of course. And this will help open up the shrub and improve its overall shape. Apricots, nectarines and peaches all need pollinating if they're going to bear a good crop of fruit. But bees may not be active yet, and if you grow them under glass, may have difficulty getting to the flowers. In both cases, pollinating them by hand is the answer. Simply tickle each bloom with a soft brush, so the pollen is spread from one flower to the next. And if you can, it's best to do this in the middle of the day. It's always a good idea to stake your herbaceous perennials before they need it. And at Wisley, they have rather a nifty way of doing this. Birch branches that they've gathered over the winter are stuck into the ground around each plant. These are then woven along the top by carefully bending and twisting the twigs together. The height of each support varies according to the plant concerned, but if you aim for a foot or so off the plant's final height, you'll be fine.
I don't grow any orchids myself, but when I was a child, my granny did. And I can still see clearly in my mind's eye these extraordinary flowers up on the mantelpiece, arching down like exotic birds. And I know lots of people get given orchids and grow them and get the same sort of wonder and pleasure that I did when I was a child. But to come here and see so many all together really is special.
Wisley's orchid collection is one of its star attractions at this time of year, and I'm meeting Peter Jones to find out how best to look after this most exotic of houseplants.
Hello, Peter.
Hello, Monty.
Peter, how many different orchids have you got here?
Oh, well, it's pretty hard to put a figure on it, but we've got hundreds of orchids in our collection. It's pretty extensive.
It's extraordinary. Now, a lot of people will be given orchids. What's the first thing you need to do? Where do you put an orchid?
I suppose you need to think about your orchid selection. So, for example, if you had an orchid like a phalaenopsis, which is given very commonly, that's an orchid which can take higher temperatures, so it's ideal for a warmer room like, say, a living room. And it also can tolerate lower light levels, so it's ideal for, say, if you've got more of a shadier room as well.
I mean, a lot of people will think this is an exotic plant, needs a lot of heat, and I'll put it on a radiator. Is that a good idea?
Oh, no. The thing with most modern houses is that they're all central heated,
yeah,
and it dries all the moisture out of the air, and the majority of these orchids come from very humid environments, so they like the moisture in the air. So somewhere like above a radiator is not going to be ideal for it.
I know that a lot of people get anxious with orchids. They grow them fine, and they do their stuff, but after a bit they either outgrow the pot or they stop flowering.
Yeah, and repotting orchid can be quite a daunting task, but we happen to be doing some at the moment, so if you want to come this way, we'll go and have a look at it. So this is a phalaenopsis, a moth orchid, which is perhaps one of the most commonly given houseplants in the UK.
Now, see, this is in a clear pot. Why is that?
Well, orchids like phalaenopsis do quite like a bit of sunlight on their roots to help with their feeding. But you also notice that we've got quite a few roots that are coming out of their pots. This is completely normal and is nothing to worry about. This is something that they do.
Now, you have non-clear pots here for the cymbidiums. Different type of behaviour.
Exactly. These will put out roots slightly on the surface, but they're not really requiring the light factor to go to them.
So how do you know that that's ready for potting on?
So I've got a good example here of one that shows how orchids with bulbs, these are called pseudo-bulbs, how they grow. So this bulb here was when the orchid was first potted, and it produces a new bulb every season. And as you can see, it has moved across the pot from where it first started to the edge of the pot.
Okay.
Now, this one here is one that is ready for potting. Well, first we'll start with the basics, is we want to get rid of this old flower spike. You can see this orchid here, it's been in its pot several years. We've got some pseudo-bulbs here, and it's got quite a lot of roots that are just coming out of the pot.
Now, do you just put that into a bigger pot?
No, well, with this orchid, it's quite a small cymbidium. It's not very big. I'm actually just going to tidy it up, and I'm going to put it straight back in the same pot it came out of.
Right.
So now I'm going to be quite brutal with this orchid, and I'm going to take a third of the roots off the bottom. So we can see, we can tease them out slightly. We can literally go in with our
just
snips.
cut across.
So we've taken our third of our roots off, and we'll just have a little tease around and see if there are any damaged and dead ones, because we don't want to leave any dead ones in there that are going to rot.
Now, how would I know if they were dead?
They'd feel soft, and they'd feel like they were rotten.
Right.
So I'm going to start by putting a bit of compost in the bottom there, and what I'm going to do is try and position this orchid so that we've got the old bulbs at the one side of the pot, so we've got the newer bulbs in the centre, because that's where our new growing tip is going to form, and it's going to walk towards the other side.
So keep it over.
It's bringing it back, it's reining it back in. Right. Got a nice height there of the base of the bulb, say just below the rim of the pot, and we're going to backfill. So what I'm doing now is I'm taking the bark and I'm
pushing it to just try and get it into the air gaps that may be inside the pot there, so give it a bit of a tap as well.
And how often would you reckon to do this?
We normally say 2 to 3 years, or when the bulbs have started to reach the other side of the pot.
Okay. Now, most of us come to Wisley to see incredible displays like these orchids and the most of plants and the biggest gardens. And we don't try and copy that at home, we just get inspiration and we take something from it. But the RHS work is not just about Wisley and the grandest and the biggest and the best. It does reach right out to grassroots level. And Carol has been up to Hartlepool to meet an RHS volunteer who is hoping to breathe new life into his neighbourhood by making a community garden.
On the windswept north coast sits the small town of Easington Colliery. It takes its name from the coal pit, which until 20 years ago was the very centre of the community. But in 1993, the pit closed down and the whole locality felt a real sense of loss. But one man is determined to galvanise local people into making their town a much more plant-friendly and colourful place.
I've actually come to take some divisions of your rudbeckia. This is the right time of year to do it.
Michael Welsh is one of thousands of RHS Britain in Bloom volunteers. Britain in Bloom is an RHS campaign that encourages communities to brighten up their surroundings. With the plants he collects from all over the neighbourhood, Michael's aim is to create a large community garden. Well, thanks to the parish council, land has been provided for Michael to start his community garden and to provide a place for all those wonderful plants that have been donated and propagated by local people.
The community garden, apart from being the hub of the community, it could actually be the heart of the community as well. And it actually spreads all over the place, especially if people do it in their own gardens, etc. And as Easington actually gets more colourful, I think people's lives will be
improved.
Yep, yeah. That's it.
I want to give whatever help I can to Michael's endeavours. Well, quite a few of these are looking really healthy. Look at that hebe. Very loose sandy compost, but good roots, look at those. So they'll need a few more weeks in here until those roots have developed a bit more before you pot them up. Cuttings are a great way to make more plants, but Michael also has an abundance of seed that needs attending to. Marigold seeds. The great thing about hardy annuals is that although you can sow them the autumn before or in the spring, in a cold year like this...
Oh yes, definitely it has been that.
And if you sow them individually, they're soon going to catch up. By the autumn, you'll have great big plants, and they'll have flowered all summer, and you'll be able to collect your seed.
It's a bit like an angler, really. When he catches his first fish, he's literally hooked for life.
Yeah.
And it's the same with a garden, I think, when you see your first seed sprout or...
Your first cutting root or your first seed. Michael's got his work cut out. There's lots of pots in here destined for the community garden. Wow, look at this. Oh, it's plant wonderland, isn't it?
It certainly is. It's, you know, this time last year there wasn't actually one plant in this garden or a structure. It's all been done possibly in the last 9 months.
Yeah, it's high exposure, but it's full light.
Yeah,
You've got lovely sandy soil by the look of it, so it's a really brilliant place to bring plants on and to have a garden. When people are giving you things, whether you've got a tiny garden or a huge great plot like you've got, I think the most important thing is to get them in the ground. Because as you're making those divisions, splitting things up, growing your seedlings on, so I think a nursery bed is what's called for. Before the community garden is fully developed, a nursery bed is the ideal place to put plants before they're ready to plant out. Creating one here is as simple as turning over the soil and removing weeds. I brought my own contribution that's just right for this location. This one's a Geranium oxonianum, and it's got these lovely chocolatey splodged leaves. You could plant a piece like that straight away, or you can make it even smaller. You trim the roots with fibrous stuff like this, just because it stimulates them to make fresh roots. In it goes. Nestle it in, and that's just going to grow away. Now, this is a very special plant I brought you. It's my mum's white phlox, and this has actually visited the northeast in its life because we lived in Newcastle for a bit, and it's exactly the right time to take basil cuttings. Have you ever done this, Michael?
No, I haven't actually done a basil one, no.
It's a really good way of propagating stuff that you can't grow from seed, that doesn't come true from seed, and where you want exactly the same plant, because it's vegetative, so you get clones of the original. And all you do is slide your knife right down into the base of here. You do it by feel rather than sight, and you just want a nice short shoot like that. Strip these bottom leaves off and just dibble them round the side of a pot. Good old watering. Grit on the top if you've got it.
Oh, yes.
I didn't bring any of that.
No, that's...
They'll take a bit of time, but you'll be able to plant these cuttings out later on in the summer.
Oh, well, that's not bad.
As well as taking basil cuttings from this phlox, we can split it up into chunks to grow on in the new bed. Finally, some stems of willow and cornus will root and provide colourful new plants. Because this whole garden's going to be a resource.
Oh, yes,
really,
it is, yes.
It's going to be the hub of all this wonderful activity.
Yes, so it's going to be the hub and the heart.
Yeah.
Well, I do wish them every success in the world with that project, because I know how that a garden doesn't just bind people together, it lightens up everybody's life. I can tell you what's lightening my life at the moment is this amazing river of daffodils. This is February gold, and it's dainty and it's charming and full of the light of spring. And even though Wisley is perishing and we have had a miserable, bleak few weeks, spring is coming. It is getting better. Now, don't forget, this coming week is National Gardening Week, lots of events all over the country, and I'll be back next week at home at Longmeadow. So join me then. Bye-bye.